So one of the first things that I realized that every human would love to hear, I don't care who you are, you want to be able to hear someone say, I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm wrong for what I did to you. But have you ever sat back and thought about what you want that apology to sound like, to look like? How do you want to feel when you finally get that apology that you've been waiting for? And then here's more than that, y'all. Have you ever thought about it? The same apology, the same forgiveness that you want to hear. Have you ever practiced doing that to someone else? Because guess what? You've hurt somebody in a relationship. You've done someone wrong in a relationship. You've done someone wrong in the church. You've done someone wrong in your family. You've done someone wrong in your community. So what does forgiveness, when it comes to this conversation about the church and about your family, your parents, I know you wanted someone to talk to you. I know you wanted that thing to look different. But can you consciously move forward from all the hurt, all the apologies you didn't get, all the I'm sorry's you didn't get? But guess what? There are some of y'all out there that need that. So this is what I'm going to do. I apologize for everyone who hurt you. I apologize for everybody in the church that misused you or missed the pivotal moment that you needed to move you forward in whatever stage of a relationship that you were in. I apologize for the people who even assumed that you knew how to talk about sex, that you knew how to go in relationships, that you knew how to be the best you for another individual. You got it? I apologized for them. You got it? You don't even have to talk about it anymore. But guess what? You've got to choose not to talk about it anymore. And what does that look like for you? And guess what, y'all? Here's the funny part about it. What story do you want your kids to tell? Moms, dads, church folks, church kids. What are you going to do now that it's time to move forward and have these pivotal conversations about sexual urges? Hey guys, this is your girl, author Monica Martin Fletcher. And I am here today coming to you as Monica Mentors. And I'm not stopping, y'all. We're going to continue these conversations until we find a place of balance as church kids, church parents, church leaders, parents, saved, unsaved. I don't care what your branch is. We're going to deal with these conversations. I want to thank you for joining me for part 2 of our conversation as we try to bridge the gap between the church and the generation. I have my guest here tonight. I traumatized her recently and she agreed to come back. So we're just going to jump right in. Thank you. Thank you, sis.
You're welcome.
Did I traumatize you too bad last time?
You did, but it's okay. I'm back.
Oh, she's back. All right. So we're going to because we got to do the doggone thing.
Absolutely.
And I feel like the last time we did the show, I feel like it was a moment for both of us because, number one, we've never had this conversation together.
Right.
I think we tapped into some things that we didn't even realize we had intended to tap
Right.
into. I think that it gave us an opportunity to realize that the space that we were in is not only did we not know how to talk to our biological father, we didn't even know how to talk to our mom and our dad. We had grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles. And I think that was probably the biggest takeaway from us. And I feel like that's why it was so important. And I thank you for agreeing to come back and do another show with me because I think it opened up so many things for us that as church kids, I think we kind of realized what they're saying, 2 or 3 gather.
Right.
And I think there are other people that would agree with us that they didn't realize until you start talking about it. And then you add your kids to the mix. And then aunties add your nieces and nephews to the mix, it opened up a whole can of worms.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to thank you for coming back to agree to do another show with me.
Absolutely.
How are you?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. How about you?
Yeah.
I'm great.
She's so not nervous, y'all. It's
I'm
just,
not.
I think this conversation was just,
It's a revelation.
Yeah, that's the
Absolutely.
word. It was a revelation.
Yes.
And so I want to just jump right in, because I know there are going to be people that are pondering some things that we're going to say. And that's the goal.
Right.
Heck, I even hope, my niece and nephews,
Right. Hope I didn't embarrass them too
that
much,
part.
right?
No, you didn't. I promise. You promise. But is there anything you'd like to kind of pivot on or kind of add to the conversation that maybe you thought about we should have, kind of opened up to last time, but we didn't get a chance to?
Yeah, I definitely. And, I told you on our way home, I was kind of thinking about what I said, and I found myself even hesitating.
Wow.
Right? Like, okay, should I say that? Is that going to embarrass the family?
Yeah.
Is my home church going to be upset? How much do I say? And that just lets you know, I'm knocking on 50, like knocking on 50. And you
Yeah.
can still have some unresolved things that you didn't even know about.
Right.
But unresolved as they may be, you got to release them, right? So that was a release for me. To be able to say those things publicly, right?
Right.
For the first time ever.
And not before a counselor.
And not
like you
before a
saying before a camera.
Right.
On a
But
show.
I can't say delete, edit, delete.
Right.
So
Right.
it was huge for me to be able to do that. And, just thinking back on it, what I will say is one of the things that I found when I was divorced and now having to raise two young kids, a son and a daughter, was how do I do this?
Right.
So, of course, ex-husband had visitation on the weekends when they were small. But moms, don't get mad at me, moms. You cannot, moms, teach a boy how to be a man. I don't care what you think. I don't care how much
Shonda.
you pray. You are a woman.
Yep.
You can teach him how to treat women
Right.
or how not to treat women.
Right.
But you can't teach him how to be a man. Why? Because you're not a man.
Right.
So I struggle with that. I have, I know the values that I can teach him. I can, and all those types of things. But I really, really struggle with that. And this is what I not to get super religious, but this is the fact. This is what came to me. When I was potty training them, and my children are only 14 months apart, by the way. So when I was potty
Hey,
training
like
them,
us.
all right, yeah. You start off teaching girls and boys potty training in the same foundational way. But eventually, because he is a boy and my daughter was a girl, you can't do it the same way. Children are visual learners. I had nothing for him to see.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So,
Couldn't call daddy every
call,
weekend.
So, and at that back then, after my divorce, they only went with their father, every weekend, and then every other weekend. So for a whole week, he's there with his female and he's potty training. I thank God for my village because then, our dad, when he would go over there, he had that
Thank you,
help.
Daddy.
Absolutely. But you can take that simple example and blow that up to where we are and what we're talking about now. You cannot think that everything is that you can do it all.
Yeah.
You can do all things through Christ.
Right.
That gives you strength. But the Bible never said he was going to give you strength to do everything because you
Right.
can't. I can't teach a little boy
Right.
certain things because I'm not a man. Same with a man can't teach my daughter or a girl how to be a woman. He can just say, this is how I treated your mother.
Right.
Or this is how you should expect a man or a boy to treat you. And so for me, that was huge because here I am. Like, oh my gosh, now what do I do? So to be quite honest, and even my son he had scholarship to college. Thank God for them because he got his master's from
Amen.
football, right? But that is the reason he started playing football. I was not the mother, that said, okay, now that I'm divorced and, one income and raising these two kids by myself, I need him to get a football scholarship and go to the pros so he can buy me a house. Absolutely not. I was not going to put that mandate on my child. It wasn't his fault that, their father and I didn't work out, right? I put my son in sports because I needed him to be around some positive male role models when my dad was at work, right?
Because the women were after him.
Yeah, they were. Bow-legged.
The older women, I was going to fight
Oh
a
my
lot
gosh,
of y'all.
She had
I just had to
dreads
get
at
that
one
part
time
in.
with the bow legs. Yeah. She got upset a lot.
The
A
older
lot of-
women,
A lot of
I'm still
sports
coming
moms.
for y'all. Okay, I'm sorry. I just get that out.
Yeah, but I needed him to be constantly around some
Yeah.
positive role models since his father wasn't in the house anymore. And that's where football came in,
Yeah.
And even with that, and they will tell you there was not too many games from the time that he started playing at 7 to the time he graduated college that I didn't go to. If I did have to miss it, I always had a representative there. My sister was going to be there, or my parents were going to be. Somebody was going to be there from our family that he could look at and say, okay, right? Same
And
with
protect him from the girls.
Oh gosh, yes, she was.
I just have to bring her back
She's
in.
serious about that, y'all. It's strange.
Dead
We'll talk
serious.
later.
Okay, go.
But it was different for my daughter.
Yeah.
Right, because I'm a female.
Right.
So I didn't have to put her in sports to teach her how to be a girl. I'm a girl, right?
Right.
She wanted to play basketball because she used to play basketball with her father, and her brother. So that's what she wanted to do. I wanted her to play volleyball. Volleyball was my sport in high school. But she wanted to play basketball, and so that's why I enrolled her in sports, not to teach her how to be a female, because I was doing that, but it was great for her self-esteem. But that's my story. What I will tell you, though, just because you have the different athletes and the way the world has it set up now, a lot of females, because they're around females, that's what they feel like they're attracted to.
Right.
Don't think it's not the same on the male side of
Oh, yeah,
things.
it's just quieter.
They don't
Yeah,
talk about it, right?
yeah.
But the key thing in all of that is, as long as you're present, you have to be present. I'm not the drop-off parent. Even when I
Right.
had to work, there was someone there. And then when they come home, talk to them about what they experienced. You should have seen me in the front yard with my son, letting him, hit his mom with these pads on when he was in
Yeah,
football.
yeah.
Or me trying to dribble with my daughter, right? And so did my ex-husband help out on the weekends? Absolutely. But they live with me during the week. So do the lessons stop just because both parents are in the house, not in the household? No. It should be a continuation of such. And as they grew older, I found myself, being the traditional church kid, feeling like I needed to think a lot more freer with how I introduced the body of Christ to them.
Yeah.
So I didn't make them go. They weren't in church every time the door was open.
Right.
They were not.
Right.
Because I was like, okay, I just need them to see the big picture. Not that was wrong necessarily, but for their generation, it didn't seem like the right fit.
Wait, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like because and that was what I wanted to kind of
Mm-hmm.
go into a little bit more, because that wound, we're pulling that scalp back. And so do you feel like, because you make the choice to say, listen, it's not going to just be them going to church all
Right.
the time. Did you personally take on the responsibility to have those sexual conversations
Yeah.
with them? And talk about that a little bit, like, because did you feel at that point, well, listen, I know they're going to church, but like, talk about why you felt like it was a better transition to maybe like we were. We weren't, they weren't in the church every time the doors open. Like, what do you think became pivotal about that, and how did you kind of marry that so you could in relation to what we're talking about talking to the kids about sex?
Well, and I'll tell you, and I'm about to be very transparent. Sorry, Mom. Very transparent about how I talk to my kids.
Yeah.
Like, and the neighbors, if they're watching this, they will laugh because
Mom wants you to be transparent
yes,
too.
their
Okay.
kids came home and told this story.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not ashamed of my life. I'm grateful because it made me who I am. But
Yeah.
I told my children literally the story about how one of them was conceived.
Yeah.
And this is what I told them, and this was the truth.
Yeah.
There was a poster above the bed with safe sex methods on it, from the most effective to the most ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
All I had to do was look up. See, we don't want to talk about it.
Interesting.
So, and I'm not joking. This is not an analogy, right? Now, I was married before I had my baby,
Yeah.
but I wasn't married when one of my children was conceived. We just
Right.
got married before that child was born.
Right.
But that's the story that I started with when they were in middle school. Let me explain to you about safe sex and those types of things and making better decisions in your life. And, I had to say it that way. Why? Because society has started giving them all things. So if you're going to expose them to something, I need to be involved in that exposure.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree with that.
That's exactly what I told them. And they were like, oh, my, that's too much. No, it's not.
Y'all talking about
Let's
it?
talk about it. If we're going to talk
Right.
about it, let's talk about
Right.
it. Right. And so as they grew older, it was, of course, much easier for me to talk to my daughter. But I could not figure out how to talk to my son about it. Right. So, Mom, that's my baby.
Yeah.
That's what we think. Right. I was blessed, though, in the city that I raised them in, to have a very good group of people, a lot of dads. Because I was one of the only parents that had a daughter.
Who you were not trying to date.
I was absolutely.
Stick that part in there.
They were all married,
And they weren't
wasn't-
trying to date you.
Right. They were married. If they weren't married, they had relationships, but it was not a physical thing with us. It was just a community of people. They all had boys. I was one of the few that had the girls, and so dads were able to come in and step in and be that surrogate. You know, when it wasn't time, when it wasn't visitation time with their dad, to talk to the boys. So what I didn't know is when I had been thinking and planning, how am I going to tell this child? You know, he needs to know he's in middle school, right? Because yes, they started middle school, and there had already been a conversation had by one of the dads. So this was my Easter speech, right? Once I stopped crying, my Easter speech to my son was, I'm gonna walk up to you and we're gonna have a code word. And my code word to him was CVS. And if you nod your head when I say CVS, I said, I'm gonna go in the room and cry for like an hour, but then we're going to CVS.
But see, that's just that makes me laugh because
I'm not sponsoring CVS. I'm just telling the story. Okay.
But you're not a quick crier.
I'm not.
So
that's my baby, right?
Right. But that's pivotal to some single moms though.
Yes.
Because some single moms, some divorcees, even that's pivotal.
Yes.
Like, because that's a great tip. Maybe one of the tips is come up with a password or a code word.
Something.
For your son and your
daughter.
You know what? Whichever
yes.
child feels uncomfortable.
Right.
Maybe that's what we should say. Whichever one you feel uncomfortable having a sex talk with,
yes.
come up with a password.
Come up with a password.
Okay.
And so I came, he hadn't said anything, my daughter and I already had conversation, because I went really intense with her because she's a girl, right? And I'm like, he hadn't said anything. Oh my God, she's about to go to high school. I need to, and so I'll say, hey, CVS, and he was like, Mom, and I won't tell you, he had that conversation with us, and then he started saying all of these things that I was going to tell him.
Wow.
And the conversation came at the same time that the school that they went to had actually had an even more detailed, unfiltered discussion about it as well. And the message was the same from, the community dad and the school, because I knew who taught the class, right? And then I need to hear everything they told you. Tell me everything. And it was the same thing I would have told him, and I added a little bit more to it because I made it a little bit more personal, some more testimonial service there, right? So he completely understood it.
Okay, so with that, do you think that's the first steps in not only helping helping the church and helping parents is to come up almost like a script?
If that's
I
what
know
it
that
takes.
sounds so basic.
No, but that's what it takes. What do you hear preachers, they say, been saying forever? I'm a preacher where you can reach it.
Yeah.
Now, that's what they say when they're breaking down the word to the congregation. But why not preach it where they can reach it? If it's a cold word, whatever it is. So it opens the door to make them comfortable and say, I can come to you without fear of punishment, judgment. You're going to get grounded. You would rather them come to you ahead of time than afterwards. When you pass out on the floor.
Well, because when they come afterwards, then it shell shocks you too. Because I think that's another thing that parents don't think about. When you find out after the fact, it traumatizes you just as much as it traumatizes them, because you start beating yourself up.
You do. I will say this though. Let's be honest, parents. We pay attention to a lot of things. We give our attention to a lot, right? Yeah. I don't think we give our due diligence to our children. There should be nothing that your child comes to tell you that you don't already know. If you pay attention and you listen to them and you let them know that what concerns them concerns you, and that doesn't mean you have to walk to the end of the corner every time they want to leave the house.
Right.
But you should know every friend that they have and their friends' parents. You should know their hobbies. You should be able to tell. Now, she was just in there last week, right, putting on makeup, and this week, she doesn't even want to eat. We have to stop being distracted by the things that are important to us and realize that we're missing things that are right in front of us because we're not paying attention to what is going on with them. Listen, my kids were gamers as well, but they can tell you at a certain time to turn the game off.
See, you're going into the next segment right there, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you next. What are some tips and tools that all the generations you think can give to this AI generation concerning listen, they are still, this is a dirty word. I don't know why it's dirty, but it's still, porn is a real word.
It's a real word and a real thing.
And AI
has become an addiction for a lot of people. Yeah.
And especially a lot of people period, no matter what their relationship status is. So how do you help? Because a lot of this generation now, AI, they are dating online.
They are.
Like they're not even going to the club like we used to, or meeting people in church.
Right.
They're doing everything online. So how do you think in this stage of your life, what's some wisdom that you can share with moms and dads about how to teach those kids who are doing that AI technology?
Yeah.
How do you approach them about sex?
And let's be honest, because even for the church, you have, I've never tried it because it kind of scares me. I watch Criminal Minds. Don't watch Criminal Minds if you're trying to date. It ain't going to go well. But like, what is that?
No, I stopped watching Lifetime. Okay, but that's no story.
Okay.
Okay.
All these little different sites that they say for adults.
Yes.
If we have it and you're logging in and you're looking, they have it, and they have the unfiltered version of it, right? So let me be clear, especially if you have some preteens, they are watching porn in some kind of way. So now technology calls it,
some of them video games,
the Japanese cartoons, hentai.
Yes,
it's still porn, and the fact that you don't know that they're watching it is a problem, right? So I'm not saying encourage it, because porn is an addiction for some people too, right? They don't know how to tell the difference between reality and that. But you need to be able to talk to them about that. That's entertainment. It's just entertainment. That's not real life. And if you are so uncomfortable or embarrassed or mad that you found out that your sweet little baby ain't as sweet as they were when they were born, that's something you need to get over.
That's true.
Right? Because the society is out there giving them everything that needs to come from you, and it's confusing them. And if we would spend less time, y'all gonna be mad at me, but I don't care, in the salons and, at Alabama and Auburn and Georgia and all these big football games and all these other things that we as adults participate in. Oh, hold on. You're always in Bible study, but your children are never with you. Okay? You're in every program that the church has, but your kids are never with you.
Or in youth groups.
And the kids are not in youth groups. You don't talk to them about anything in their lives, and then you wonder why they, wake up one day and, my mom, my dad, who are they? And they're talking to technology, because technology is designed by a person.
Yeah.
But it talks to them, it gives them what they need, it feeds that emptiness that they have inside, and that needs to be filled by something else. Like, we got to stop being so, grow up, people.
You know what? Parents would be shocked to know, because I've been teaching children's church at church for years. They bring y'all business to church, so you might as well be talking about it. They bring it.
Let me tell you.
When we had them discussion groups, I mean, they're bringing your business to church.
Because I did it, so I know the kids are doing it.
So there's no need to keep yourself in a space where you're not talking about it, because they're bringing it. Yeah,
they hear it, they see it, all of that. And then they're going to go and find their version of that in present day, which is always going to be a lot worse because it's unfiltered and it's robotic or whatever. So if you think your kids don't know, they do. They have older siblings that may be exposing, they may have asked questions to cousins, whatever that looks like, but you should want that conversation to come directly from you. And here's the thing, when they come to you with it, don't automatically start fussing at them. That's what we do.
Yeah.
You know why we do it?
That's our culture, though, I think.
But you know why? Because we don't want to deal with it.
Oh, so we use it as a distraction.
It's a distraction. Get out of my face.
Okay, I got it.
And then you go in the room like, oh my God, because you weren't ready, because you didn't prepare yourself to have that conversation. But what you don't know is when you say get out of my face, and they went to somebody who didn't mind them getting in their face and told them the incomplete story about it. So that's the thing. We just have to prepare ourselves and just know this is how the world is now. And you literally have to be able to, listen, I understand my feelings got hurt with my two in growing up, the growing up part of them, because they weren't my babies anymore. But I deal with it, and now I'm grateful. They are on their own. Thank you, Jesus. I'm sorry.
You got distracted.
Ooh, honey.
Stay focused.
Out of my, but we still have conversations. We talk about politics.
Yeah.
And we talk about everything. We talk about the church and their interpretation of certain things that's going on in the church. And I have to talk to them about it.
Yeah.
It's a running joke when I'm talking to my son, because we have some intense conversations. He talks as much as his mother does. But he'll say, Mom, you should have been a preacher. No,
No,
that
bro.
ain't my calling. Let's talk about it.
No,
No,
bro.
but I got to tell you both sides
Yeah.
of it, right? And so that's what we have to do as parents, as uncomfortable as it is. And listen, if you may not talk as much as I do, you may be very uncomfortable having that conversation. Find somebody that you trust to talk to them, but at least get the message to them instead of it coming from a computer.
Okay, speed round then. What do you think two pivotal things that boomers could do today to help talk to their grandkids and great grandkids about sex?
Tell the truth about their story,
Okay.
because they have a story.
Okay.
My grandfather had 29 children between children and women.
Sure enough.
Tell the truth. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I
I'm
mean,
still trying to figure out that.
Still trying to figure it out. Tell the
Wow.
truth. Yeah. You weren't perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. So let them know that.
Okay. What do you think millennials?
With millennials, because that's kind of.
What can millennials say back? What can millennials do to receive the message from the boomers?
Well, listen.
Your opinion. Yeah.
They need to learn how to listen and make sure that they're not here. You're just trying to tell me how to live how I'm supposed to live my life. That's not it. I'm trying to help you live a better life. But also, thank you. Sometimes you got to accept an apology you'll never receive
Yeah, that part.
and move on from there. And then just make sure you don't duplicate the same behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about, and we're going to go ahead so we can kind of wrap up the conversation. What do you think it's a good tips and two for a single mother?
It's a lot. I could write a book about that, and I just might one day. Whether you're single because you're divorced or single because you're single, just know it's okay to ask for help because you need help. And don't be so one-sided in trying to prove yourself to the world. You don't have to. You really don't. Just be prepared that you cannot do this by yourself. That doesn't mean you're finna go get married. I'm not saying that. But be open and honest with the fact that there are certain subjects you might not be, comfortable having. Same with, married couples. And then let the children know, just because it's just one of us in the house now, you're just as good as anybody who was raised with both of their parents the entire time, and repeat that message. Last thing I will tell you, and the people that know me know that I never let anybody say anything to my kids that was opposite of what I said. There's a certain mantra I've said to them since they were babies. I say it in the same way all the time, their entire lives, and they don't even know that it's a thing for them. But I never let anybody speak anything different on that particular subject, no matter who they were. And so you need to learn that your children are not lost unless you think they are. You just have to have the right focus and say, I'm not going to spend $600 on my hair today. I'm going to go ahead and spend some time with my kids. And that's it for them.
And the last thing, what do you think the church, pastors, leaders can do to bridge the gap to talk to our kids about sex
Well, I'm gonna
and support the family?
Well, I'm gonna say the same thing. Be open and tell the truth, the whole unadulterated truth, and be real enough to say, I did it, but God helped me. Right? Once we stop, like we talked about last week, once we stop that condemning attitude that we have and that judgmental attitude, God's gonna do the rest. So you just got to be open and honest and say, we want you here. Let's get you here first, and now that we have you, let's talk about real life, and then we're gonna show you what the word says about real life as well. So it's a balance. We got to have a balance in that. So same mandate. Absolutely.
Wow. One of my biggest takeaways from today is that no matter what generation you come from, you need to be open, you need to be honest, you need to listen. Our grandparents used to tell us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You need to be transparent. Don't be guarded. Don't be judgmental. Your temperament means everything. I tell people so much when people come to me and say, how are you able to get people to listen? I say, because what I do is I always think about how I want someone to speak to me. I always think about how will I receive this message? And so I want you to keep this in mind. It doesn't matter what age group you're from. Never assume that someone knows something. Stop assuming the kids understand about sex. Stop assuming someone is talking to them about sex. Stop assuming that they're just going to know. I think that's the biggest thing as a community and as a church we can overcome. We need to find solutions there. And so most importantly, my mother used to drive me crazy with this, y'all. But now, as I'm almost 50 years old, I realize it is so true. It all boils down to a choice. What are you going to choose? Are you going to talk about it? Are you going to support the church to talk about it? Are you going to support family members to have that conversation? Are you going to allow me as a mentor to help support you have that conversation? If you can't talk about it, get you some support, guys. It's out there. It's up to you what you choose for tomorrow to look like. Today is going to always be tomorrow. You get to wake up and see a new day. What are you going to do with today, and what choice can you choose for tomorrow? This is your girl, author Monica Martin Fletcher. Another episode of Monica Mentors. I look forward to guiding you on this journey. You can follow me, find out more about me on all of my social media platforms. You can visit my website, monicamartinfletcher.com. All of my platforms, all my social media, everything is on that site, monicamartinfletcher.com. You can, by all means, I'm so excited. You can support my new project, The House That Never Fails. It is a practical conversation. It is a nonfiction story, but you'll be surprised at how it can help you guard your emotions, guard your attitude, and talk to our church kids about sex. All right, guys, until we meet again, have a blessed one.